Favorite things to do every single Monday is come live. We are live. Shecky, of course, remember, first couple of minutes, people are going to watch the recording. So I'm going to update some links. We got an important webinar coming up. Shecky, will you do the honors and kind of kick this thing off and say hi to everybody as people start just joining on?
Sure. Hi to everybody. That is, yes, this is probably one of the most fun things that we do. And today is a very, very interesting topic. And I'm thrilled to be here, as always. And it's interesting using the internet when we're like, what, 2 blocks away from each other? So using the World Wide Web to connect from 2 blocks away, it's pretty amazing. So, but anyway, I just want to give everybody a couple minutes to let everybody jump on and, hit their logins and, make sure that their sound and their vision and everything is okay. Today is really, really interesting because it's a pretty hotly disputed and often misunderstood topic of what's been going on the last, month or so with Facebook since they made this huge announcement. And interestingly, I've talked to, and including a guy you and I both know very well, Kurt, a guy I had lunch with today. I won't mention any names, but, it ends with an ack. And, but, everybody's got a very different just sort of interpretation of that big article that came out in the New York Times and what Facebook's really intent was. People were like freaking out and everybody, there was some, I guess, the article alluded to the fact that a lot of the big advertisers were basically screwed, and a lot of the ones that relied on big media and things like that. And again, of course, that's just reporters and that's just interpretation. Other people were kind of going to the other side and saying, well, what does this mean for organic reach and how things? There's some interesting angles to that too, and certainly something that we're going to talk about today. So there's lots of kind of different ways to slice this cat. So if you are advertising at all on Facebook, then you're in the right place. Like, this is the perfect place for you to be right now because the conversation is extremely timely to what's going on Facebook. So in other words, it's not what's working 3 months ago or 6 months ago or theory or anything like that. It's what's working today, right now, what's happening since this quote unquote big algorithm change. Right?
Hey, Shecky,
yeah.
As I'm creating this video, will you make a quick comment? You and I have been working together for how long again?
Almost 3 years.
How many quote unquote algorithm changes do you think you have seen? Yeah, I know you're even laughing. Would you mind commenting on that, on how often Facebook is making changes?
I can't really count that many, but I'm just thinking okay, in the last 3 years, I would say we're probably looking at there's got to have been at least 7 or 8 in the last 3 years, at least ones that were announced. And the reality is most people don't really realize this, is they're making changes to that algorithm all the time. Like, there's probably stuff that they're doing with their programming that's going on weekly. The only stuff that we know about are things that they leak out in press releases because they're trying to move the masses, and they're trying to either, scare people or move people, advertisers in particular, in a direction that they're wanting that company to go, right? And, I don't blame them. I mean, they're the biggest website in the world, and they do control a lot of eyeballs. And as such, they also do, there's a lot of public opinion surrounding that just because of the sheer volume of numbers that they do. So, if I were Zuck, I'd be doing the same thing. It's like, let's shift people's perceptions or get people over into our camp to be thinking in this certain direction, because this is going to benefit the forward movement of our company, right? And this is what's going to be good for our shareholders and all the other people that we're responsible to. But like you've said before, Kurt, at the end of the day, the reality of what's happening with a company that big, whether it's Facebook or Google or any of the other big platforms, it's really all about user experience. So they've gotten to be the behemoths, and I use that word intentionally, just the giants that they've become, is because they provide this amazing customer experience. They provide something that is very addictive. I mean, we all know how addictive it is. You know, you log in on Facebook and, you know, you're just poking around and all of a sudden, you know, it's like 2 hours have gone by and you're going, how is it that I am now watching some video about a cat flying a hang glider? Like, how did I get from just, you know, looking up this one thing I was going to look up for my business to watching a cat flying a hang glider? Like, it's just unbelievable how easy it is to get sucked in. So, you know, I'm saying that in a way that, like, I'm kind of bearing my soul and going, I hate myself, right, for saying that. But at the same time, I got to give props to the programmers for what they created, right? Because, you know, even a guy like me who knows better, right, is like, stay the heck off of there, right? Like, even a guy like me who, obviously we go in there obviously sometimes just to work and to do stuff and to look at what people are doing with advertising and all that other kind of stuff. And even going there with the intention to work, right, quote unquote work, it's just like this super, super easy distraction. So so kudos to those guys for creating just this amazing user experience, right? And, you know, they've done the same thing with Instagram. Pinterest has done really well. Twitter has done really well. LinkedIn has made some really big strides lately. I mean, it's just all of these bigger platforms have got something figured out to where, you know, we kind of use that word gamify. Like they know how to reach some portion of the human brain to create a situation that's going to get them hooked in and get them addicted. Now that I've spoken about, you know, kind of the negative and the positive, the bigger positive about all those platforms that are doing that is that we as advertisers get to put messaging in front of people that are like in this trance. Oh my God, I'm stuck on Facebook for 2 freaking hours, right? So we get to do that and we get to advertise to those people. So now that being said, it's also extremely easy if you're not doing things correctly, but things are flying so fast, especially on something like a news feed. I use the quotation marks on purpose. Yes, I'm being a little bit silly, but when you look at something through the news feed, people are scrolling very, very quickly, right? And, you know, it's most mouse operations now, just like a little flick of a wrist and you're scrolling like crazy. That's the way they're all designed. And you can go through, you can probably with one flick, I know on this thing, like I use this Apple, I don't know if you can see this Apple Magic Mouse. So if I flick it really, really quickly, I can actually probably roll through about 20 ads without even seeing it. Yep. Right? Like it just, right? It's kind of fun. And so how do we create situations, right, that, to use your term, Kurt, that are thumb stoppers or scroll stoppers, and create a situation that is really like so eye-catching and so grabbing and so relevant, and I use that word on purpose, that somebody's going to sit up and go, hey, that might be something interesting for me to look at because it speaks to me, it speaks to the kinds of things that I am interested in. So yeah, even though like everybody else on Facebook, I have the approximate attention span of a flea, maybe I will stop scrolling for just a minute and go with the attention span of a dog and, you know, up my attention span to like, you know, when my master's holding a cookie and I'm going like this for let's say 30 seconds. Right, because that's all you really, you know, really, if you don't grab them in the first 3 or 4 seconds, you're toast anyway. And even if you're holding their attention, it may only be 30 to 45 seconds. So we're obviously not going to put a novel about World War II in front of them, or the Civil War, or anything else, or, you know, Atlas Shrugged or anything like that in front of them. We got to put something quick and snappy and like grab them by the throat really, really fast. And we do that with relevance, and that's a lot about what we're going to talk about today. So go ahead.
Let's go into that just for a little bit. So just a couple of things. If you're watching us live right now, if you go in the top right-hand side of the corner, I have a link which will give you some more information about what we're talking about. We're going to have a webinar coming up this Thursday. I believe we scheduled it for 3 p.m. Yeah, we did a webinar on EQ and IQ over the weekend on Saturday. And Shecky and I worked really late on slides on Friday. On Saturday, we're still hustling it together. And, you know, Shecky, we didn't, Nick and I didn't tell you this, but what we did is we sent out the recording to some of the people, or to the people who showed up or registered for the webinar. But a lot of people watching, right? And we got a lot of questions afterwards, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, what's really interesting is, Shecky, you and I, let's be honest, we really went down a very positive rabbit hole about EQ and IQ and how very important it can be to your ads. And I'm going to show you the proof here in just a couple of minutes. I want to show you exactly the article that Shecky was talking about, exactly what our strategy does before and after the changes. Does it make a big difference? You know, what's really interesting is, Shecky, I love the news. The reason is because when people, and you know, you and I laugh about this all the time. When people watch the Fox News, the sky is falling, right? So a lot of times people call me and will freak up because they read something in the news and they're like, oh my God, I'm scared. And I go, hang on, did you read the news? And they go, how do you know? And I go, the news is in the process of not giving you facts, but making you scared so you read more.
Yeah.
Right? So let's go over this article here just real quick. Shecky, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share my screen with you.
And while you're sharing, I just want to make one comment on this thing, and it's somewhat off topic, but I read something today about perception, and that many people in the world think that the world is an extremely dangerous place only because the news reports on everything that's dangerous. But in reality, it's not really that way. So our perceptions are shifted by the news. And this is one of the reasons why I know you say you love it, because obviously, you know, you can get in front of people and things like that, but that's the reason why I can't stand it. Okay,
this is important, though, that you bring this up, though, Shecky. That aligns what we call a belief system. And this is very important, especially the webinar we're going to cover on Wednesday or on Thursday, and what we're going to talk about here today. So here's the thing, is whatever you decide to listen to, whether it's the news, your parents, news articles like we're going to go over here, whether it's colleagues at work, the guru, the experts, whoever you choose to listen to, you don't really know unless you test and verify it yourself, right? You really don't. But depending on your trust levels and what your personal belief system is, there could be some thought leaders that you just really tend to be attracted towards, right? Maybe the thought leader's EQ really attracts you, and you can't verify everything what that person says, but you as an individual, just like all of your customers, seem to resonate to a certain type of information, right? Depending on how that information is dispersed, and that could be through you. And the other thing is you always want to think about is your customer's belief system. So for my customer's belief system, you, the people who are listening right now, I get excited. I get really excited when people are like, Kurt, I think the sky's falling. I go, no, it's not. Let's look at the actual numbers and the facts, because I'll tell you, my guess would be 99% of the people are going to read this article scared, and they just don't know how to move forward. So we're going to make that completely different for you today. This is a really big deal. I mean, Shecky, we've had some of our higher end clients call us and say, oh, Kurt, what are we going to do? And I go, nothing. What do you mean? And I go, because we're already doing the right thing. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? So Shecky, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, the Facebook to Change newsfeed. Yeah, New York Times.
So let's go along, and this is we are going to cover this type of stuff again on the webinar on Thursday, but I want to kind of go along the thought process so everyone's on the same page. Shecky, you and I spent a lot of time about this on Friday, and we've been spending a lot of time over the last couple of weeks talking about targeting your right avatar and aligning with their belief system. Now, Shecky, let's role play through this very, very quickly, okay? Sure. Shecky, have you ever heard of the New York Times?
Yes.
Do you have any personal opinions about the New York Times? Are they legit? Are they small? Are they relevant in 10 seconds or less?
Legit and more liberally biased.
Okay, great. And that's your opinion, right?
Correct. That's my opinion. You asked for my opinion, I gave it.
Exactly. Okay. So, Shecky, when you read Facebook to Change newsfeed to focus on friends and family, just that title from the New York Times, because this is a lot of times what happens when people scroll down their newsfeed. So, The New York Times, we would agree, is a large paper, right?
Yes.
Headlines are more important than even the picture because people have to look at the headline first before they click and actually read, right?
Yep.
The line here is made for people to click.
Yep.
Great. And they have a congruent image. Wait a minute. Are we learning something from the New York Times that Facebook wants as well? It's all congruence, right? Now, here's what happens. Zuckerberg comes out in April. This is a picture in April, but this was published June 29th. The time of this recording is July 25th, a month later, so we can make a comparison. So here's what happens. So the Zuck gets on stage, and just to keep in perspective, by the way, a little over a year ago this time last year, there were 1 million advertisers on Facebook. Now there's 3 million. Costs are going to be different. Costs are going to go up. There's more people advertising. So there's all these people sending all this information. And what basically happens is comes out of San Francisco, says, hey, for years, Facebook has courted publishers of all sizes. Now, remember, Facebook is considered one of the largest news sites in the world because it aggregates all this news, right? So more and more social media giants to expand their audience. Now, Facebook has a new message for publishers. Tap down your expectations. Facebook said on Wednesday it planned to make a series, again, this is a month ago, of changes to its newsfeed algorithm so it'll be more favorably promote content posted by the friends and family of users. Okay, so more friends and family are going to see this. Now, the side effects of these changes, the company said, is that content posted by publishers will show up less prominently in the newsfeed. Content posted by publishers, less prominent in the newsfeed. Shecky, when you read that sentence, does it say advertisers, fan pages, content? What is the exact wording here? Is it ads or content?
It's content.
Could content be ads?
Yes.
Does it say that it's ads in this newsfeed?
No.
Exactly. All they're doing is talking about the businesses that want to do organic content like organic SEO or organic Facebook postings. Their postings are not going to show up in the relevant feeds of people's users. This has nothing to do with ads. This is exactly what Facebook wants. We've been preaching, Shecky, for the last 150 plus days. Hey, look, it's all about relevance. This is exactly what Facebook is saying, is we're saying, hey, look, if you're just depending on free Facebook traffic when you post typically on your fan page, it's not going to be seen as much because the public has voted, not because it's a new Facebook policy because they want to make people mad. People aren't clicking on the organic stuff as much as they used to. So the move underscores the never-ending algorithm tweaking that Facebook undertakes to maintain interest in its newsfeed. The company's marquee feature is seen by more than 1.65 billion users every month. Okay, I'm going to finish. There's just two last things right here I want to read. It's also a reminder that while Facebook is vastly important to the long-term growth of news media companies, from older outlets like the New York Times, Washington Post, to upstairs like BuzzFeed, Vice, and Vox Media, publishers rank lower on Facebook list priorities. So lots of people will share BuzzFeed. People will share articles like this for the New York Times. Now you see that Facebook's really been in the news a lot recently about how do they increase the algorithm so political stuff gets shown more? Do they decrease it? Are they censoring people? Now it's all about what's Facebook allowing people to see? What do people really want to see? Well, what Facebook wants to be is whatever you want it to be long term. See, the thing is Facebook doesn't want to be a news site because that's where a lot of people read news. And then all of a sudden, 2 years from now, you don't want news. Based off what you click, what you look at, what you engage with, again, that relevance, well, it's shown Facebook through all this massive data. Hey, look, people aren't looking for advertisers just to show up free in their newsfeed. This article basically says we're going to be paying for it because Facebook wants to be something that you use, and you have indicated that it's friends and family much more than it's about Burger King or Coca-Cola posting an ad. Now, there's an exception in general. On part of the publishers, the platforms will change, and they won't necessarily be informed of how they change. And this completely highlights how the ownership of a user is central tension between news producers and platforms. Now, you're producing content, not news production. So you're not saying the same thing over and over. You're aggregating some of the news. So last thing I'm going to read right here, the changes will affect all types of content posted by publishers, including links to videos, live videos, photos. Facebook said it expected to drop in reach and referral traffic from publishers whose audiences comes primarily to content posted by the publisher's official Facebook page. Facebook plans to start making the changes as soon as this week. So that was a month ago, okay? basically, I'm going to come back over here to camera for just a second.